Hello, welcome to another episode of the Pretty Huge Dilemma podcast. I am your host, executive producer, editor, marketing director, business advisor, Jacob Barrett. I think this is episode 7, the first one where it'll be a week before. So a week later, it'll be out, not pre-recorded too far in advance. So hopefully the topics I talk about are still somewhat relevant. Today, just trying not to freeze too badly. Arctic freeze coming over everywhere, talking about the weather. That's what people talk about. And I didn't realize that as much when I was younger. So when took Spanish class in high school, the first thing we were told about was, okay, you're going to learn about the weather, about how to say sunny, rainy, all these different things, because that's what people talk about. But I didn't realize it as much until I grew up. But man, people talk about it a lot. But I don't know. That's what happens. It's relevant. Everyone experiences it. But renting, I don't have to worry about the freezing as much as being a home buyer. Don't have as many pipes to worry about, things like that. A lot of the pipes that I have share with other people around me, so water's always running. But this week did look at a couple more houses and townhome type things. There were some funny ones that I saw. Every week I might not have something, but this there were a couple that stood out to me. A couple things that I questioned were places that are in gated communities. How do they have open houses? Are there times where those gates are completely open and anyone can just drive in and see what's going on with it? Because if not, then only people in the gated community could go there. Because I drove past one, it had open house signs outside in front of it, but it was in a gated community. So I was like, I can't drive in there. Drove around to try to find an open gate, couldn't find one. And I wasn't going to try to sneak in one, so just passed on that one. Then another one I saw, we were looking at, I was looking at a townhome and I thought, oh, this is reasonably priced, not too much. Clicked on it, HOA fee $3,000. Then I slowly realized that it was a place for older people to live, a senior living type area. So passed on that one as well. But also for that one, there was a funeral home right across the street from the senior living. That was somewhat surprising to me. I would think they would try to at least hide that a little bit, not have it right across the street. But I guess maybe some convenience go from senior living to the place to go after senior living. Yeah, not the best placement for it, but I thought it was kind of funny to see that. In the previous episodes, I noticed during making the clip portion of the editing that I wasn't looking at the camera as much, which kind of makes sense. Kind of weird to look straight at the computer, kind of like to look around at different things. Don't know if that's a nervous tick I have or if it's just normal thing. I don't think it's as big of a nervous tick as it was at the beginning. The first couple episodes, it was probably pretty bad, but now getting used to it, getting clips posted, seeing myself, hearing myself, it's gotten a little easier for it. But nervous ticks, talk when I thought about ticks, I thought about the little insect that happens. Well, the little insect that people sometimes get that bite them. Man, for some reason, might be an irrational fear because I don't run into them too much in my daily life, thankfully. But I am pretty nervous to run into or encounter one of those. I don't know exactly what they cause. I think it's West Nile disease. I don't know what that is. All I know is it doesn't sound pleasant to have. So anytime I haven't seen a tick, the only time, well, I have seen a tick, but I have never been bit by a tick that I'm aware of. The only time I saw one was there was one time there was a tick on my brother's back and he didn't know about it. I guess it was there for like a couple hours, but then he found out sometime that evening that he had ticks. So my parents took tweezers, pulled it off of his back, put it in the freezer. I guess they didn't like smash and kill it. I guess they just froze it to death. So then they just froze it, and I guess they took it to the doctor to get that tested. if it had the disease. I know you did that. If I saw a tick, I would probably take it, pull it off, throw it on the ground, step on it, and then go to the doctor from that. I didn't know you're supposed to preserve them. So public service announcement, if you get bit by a tick, keep it, put it in your freezer to get tested. Don't just smash it on the ground instead. So I don't know. For some reason, those are pretty scary to me, but hopefully I don't run into them. Hopefully wear long enough socks and pants when I go into high grass areas where they stay away. I don't know if there's tick repellent spray. Maybe there is. But anyway, that's what I thought of when I thought of nervous ticks. And whenever anyone says tick, that's the first thing that comes to mind. Okay, so as you can see, supporting the Iowa women's wrestling team. Supporting the Iowa women's wrestling team, I think it's kind of like supporting the Michigan football team when football was first invented because they just kill everyone. They haven't lost a duel. They had multiple national champions. I guess they didn't win all of the weights last year, but they won a majority of them. And this year again, the championships, Coralville, March 7th and 8th. Not sure how to watch it. Not sure if it'll be on ESPN, probably be ESPN Plus, or maybe it'll be on Flow Wrestling, one of those two. But yeah, I don't know. I was just the first ones to go, hey, you know what would be a nice compliment and a way to boost up our national championship numbers? If we just get this Iowa wrestling team. Being Iowa, Iowa had a bunch of men's national championships in wrestling before, so getting in early with the women's one, I don't really don't even I'm not even sure who else they've wrestled. So maybe I'm a bandwagon fan for it. I'm not closely following it. I see some of the highlights when I scroll through social media, but there's nothing I'm not looking online to see when they're wrestling, who they're wrestling. Couldn't name a person on the team. All I know is they win national championships. So it's kind of just expected. If they don't win one, then I'll have to start doing some research and see why are we not winning. But yeah, go out, support them March 7th and 8th. It will be exciting to watch Iowa win another national championship, which all the other sports I don't know when the next one will be, when it'll be close to getting one. I think they were close with women's field hockey, but football not close. Basketball, I think they just fired their coach and getting a new person. Any other college sport? Baseball not happening, but Iowa women's wrestling. Maybe I'm sure they make championship merchandise, so maybe I'll find some of those. That'll be a good one. Okay. Other things happen this week. Okay. So what I noticed, and I've noticed this before, is having a personal trainer or a doctor on someone else's podcast is just a cheat code to get someone to evaluate everything you've been doing, all of your health, all your nutrition, all your exercise, and just ask them, what do you think about this? If a person did this, if a person lived a life exactly like me, what would you say to them? Oh man. And it's just a free way to get doctor advice. And it's easier to have a conversation with them than maybe a doctor in a doctor's office. But maybe people have other relationships with their doctors than I do. When I go to the doctor, I don't know, I get nervous going in there. I think my blood pressure will be fine. I think mo majority of things are fine, maybe one or two things that I need help with. But going in there, I was like, man, I don't really like this. And having a conversation with him, because you get charged by the hour with this healthcare service that we got. I don't know. I'm not going to dive too much into healthcare. Don't want target on my back for big healthcare to come after me because they're got to figure some things out. But going in there's like you're not having a conversation with him. You're telling him a couple things, then he or she gives you a diagnosis, get the medicine, get whatever recommendations they have, then you're out. But if you have a doctor or personal trainer on a podcast, then you go more in depth on things. You can ask them more. Oh, I have this condition. I've been doing these exercises. What would you say about that? And a doctor just goes through and gives a way more in-depth answer to it. So that's, I don't know, kind of funny. Maybe Yeah, I keep saying I'll have people on podcasts, but that'd be a rare thing. That might take a while. Oh, I also noticed I messed with the cap of this pen a lot while recording, so let me just get rid of that. So now I just have the pen. Notice, so having the personal trainer on, you can say, "Oh, I have this injury. I've been doing this for rehab. What do you think about it?" And they could give you 10 or 12 different things. And it's a lot more free flowing than if you went to the personal trainer because they're trying to get people in and out. They're trying to get things going for it. So I was trying to have the trainer on there. I had well, I've had that realization, but more specifically, I had it when I was listening to the Peter Attia podcast. So he's doctor, longevity guy. Listened to some of his podcasts, not too much. Read his book a couple times. It was really insightful. Outlive. I really like that. It was really helpful. Practical things. Definitely went more in depth than I thought it would. Talking about like the four horsemen of cancer, neurodegenerative diseases, diabetes, and cancer, heart, brain, fitness, diabetes. So when he went through, it was like, oh, you don't want high blood pressure because like this part of your wall gets your arteries get taken down because it's bombarded with all these different things like tear away at it slowly and rip things apart. So when you made analogies like that, it was easier to understand. But when you talk like in depth about like the molecules and things like that, how things are made up, not as helpful. But again, recommend reading that book. It was really helpful learning different things because the beginning of it is telling people these are diseases, they're preventable, get started early, do these screenings. And the second half is like, oh, how do we do that? Working out, sleeping better, having better relationships with ourselves, eating better. So he's very helpful with that. But on this podcast, he talked to Mike, I don't know how to say his last name, Mike Israetel, which it was really helpful. I haven't gotten through the entire thing, but Mike Israetel, I guess he's a YouTuber podcaster. I don't know if he has podcasts. I've seen his YouTube clips. I haven't watched them fully, all of them. Some of them I scroll past depending on the length of them or what the content is about. He's on there. He has his own fitness company where he helps people work out and stuff like that. He's on there. He's a bodybuilder. He's taken crazy amounts of testosterone to do that, which to me is crazy amount, but to a bodybuilder, maybe not as crazy of an amount. But he was on there talking about all the different things, how to build muscle, how to fit into a short schedule if you have it. Like if you can only work out two times, 30 minutes a week, it's like, well, this is what you're going to do, and it'll have immense benefits to it. And then later in the podcast, he started talking about steroids, how steroids just like make you more of having manly features. So if you think, again, I just got this from a podcast that I listened to a little bit. So if you think about your hormones, because like women's hormones, then men's hormones, then if you add testosterone on top of that, become like extra manly testosterone. You talk less to people, use not as big of words, you have all these other effects. Talk, yeah, like I said, talk less, and I should have written down more of those. But he's talking about all these, your recovery is better, you can look better this way, you don't have to rest as much, and yeah, you're gonna sculpt your body to be how you want it to be. Kind of like how an artist goes through paints, you don't see the full picture, but they do in their mind, they're slowly just getting it all out, all these little details that you wouldn't notice. Now being on steroids just makes that easier. So I haven't gotten to the downsides of it yet. Maybe there are a couple that he hasn't mentioned. Maybe someone doesn't want to be as high on the testosterone, not talking as much and things like that. Then I'll start about how you have to take estrogen to counterbalance it, and man, it was way more in depth. So pretty much, I just noticed testosterone just makes you extra manly. So maybe that's not the worst thing, but like I said, haven't got to the downside part of it yet. We'll see. I don't know what his life expectancy longevity is. Like I said, Peter Attia, it's a bunch of longevity stuff, but I don't know how taking crazy amounts of testosterone play into that. So then from him talking about that, thought, okay, so there's bodybuilding, weightlifting where they have like clean and unclean. Then they're making these Olympic games where it's like the enhanced games where you can just take however much steroids you want and oh man, I keep messing with my hair because I don't like the way it looks, but oh well, that happens. Um, I'll leave it the way it is. I have these enhanced games where you just take crazy amounts of steroids to perform just the best. And I thought, oh, well, if there's that, maybe there needs to be a juiced and unjuiced podcasting criteria where you have a section where I don't even know what would be considered juicing. If it might not be taking different things, might not be taking drugs or some other type of medicine. It might be a podcast has a subscription to something else. They're doing ads in this other way that other people don't have options to. But think about that. I don't know if you can really say that because people don't have options to it. Then there's probably a reason that other people do. But having a juice and unjuiced podcast, I thought that would be it's funny. Oh, this juice podcast. They're not clean podcasts. They take enhancements. They take these mental um supplements to make them think better, think longer, think harder. So like that versus clean podcast. You can tell it kind of like dips off. It's hectic. It's not as well put together. Things like that. So then if you have unclean, then you gotta get the USDA has to be involved in some way then to get all the testing done, do all the analysis. But the USDA, they might be on their way out. I don't know if they're on the chopping block from Doge. I don't know if they're in the sites there. I also don't know if anything Doge is doing is making an impact. I can't tell on X if things are actually happening, if they're not happening, if they just say things. I don't know if it's a spam account, not spam account, but like a parody account, which parody account seems more real than the actual account would be if those are actually getting things done. But I did see something, again, who knows what it is, on X where it said that Trump and Elon wanted to give some of the money back to Americans because of all the money they saved from Doge. This kind of feels like if you have a friend where they lost a bunch of money gambling or just borrowing from random people, then they win a lottery ticket for $10,000. And they go, oh, I'm going to spread this around. I'm going to give money back, let them hold on to it, pay off these debts. Then a couple months or a year later, that same friend or the government comes back to you and says, oh, you know that money that I gave back to you that I paid back all these debts for? Well, I'm going to need that back. So that's what that would kind of feel like if the government went, here's all this money, here's $5,000, then next year when I got to pay, again, we're getting into the big topics, the taxes on that $5,000, they'll go, huh, you know what's weird? You owe us exactly $5,000 back again because we blew money not in this area, but instead in this other area. So crazy how that works out. That's what it kind of feels like if money got paid out from Doge, but I don't know if that'll happen or not. I don't know how they're gonna get my information. I forget how I got my information during um like a couple years ago when they gave out a bunch of money. I forget how that happened, where they got that information, but that might happen. So, speaking of X and Elon, his number, talking about a juiced account, I don't think he could be more. It would be hard for him to be more on my timeline. I see him all the time on there talking about who knows what, replying to people I've never heard of, sharing pictures and memes that I don't really get for it. And I've tried muting him, which I guess he's kind of like on MySpace, the Tom. Well, he is. Well, I think Tom created it. Elon didn't create it, but he owns it. And Tom owned it. But oh man, I do not like the way my hair is looking. I probably need to get a haircut. If only there was a Tinder for barbers. But I'll probably just go back to the barber Kate. What do you call it? Hairstylist Kate. I think women are still called barbers. Are they? Or are they just called hairstylists? Either way. So Elon, I tried muting him, but he still shows up. I don't want to block Elon from my account. I don't want to block him from the Pretty Huge Dilemma podcast account because what if he wants to listen to an episode? What if something comes across his timeline? He goes, you know what? This clip that he posted about ice cream cake, about being cast into a dumbbell, I really relate to that. Let me check this out and see what it's like. So I can't block him because that would just be free advertising if he does come across the podcast. But maybe he will. Because I don't know, again with mute button, he's on there too much. I don't know what he's talking about. The Tesla stuff, cool. SpaceX launches, cool. Do them a lot. I don't need them as much. Okay. So that's how we make a juiced and unjuiced podcast. I don't know. We'll see. I probably won't. Again, I say probably. I don't know if I probably won't go on TRT soon. That'd be too much, too hectic. Probably a lot more risks than I realized. Because growing up, you hear well, I heard all these things like, I guess not too much, but like the baseball players doing steroids, like, oh, steroids, they're gonna ruin your life. They're making all these people bad. They're not treating people the way they should. They're not acting correctly. And then now it's like people pretty regularly are taking steroids. And again, depends what you mean by steroids. People pretty regularly taking TRT and stuff like that. So yeah, oh man, this is gonna be rough. Maybe I'll set it all this out. Geez, now it sticks up. Okay, whatever. Maybe I shouldn't have wet it before this. Okay, that's clean versus unclean podcast. Now I'll get to some business ideas I had. I don't really think they're business ideas. There's, well, a couple of them are business ideas, but ideas I had to make money since I haven't found out making money yet for this portion of the podcast. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not desperate for it. I think for the Twitter thing, you have to subscribe to Twitter Premium, pay them in order to make money from them. I don't know. But anyway, not interested in that. In it for the people, because I am attempting to be the voice for the voiceless. I think I said that before. But okay. So this before I get to business ideas, let's do this now. Let's get into this now. Okay. So I'm gonna keep stalling until I figure out a transition to it. Okay. Same thing might not be the most popular. Probably not the most popular. Aware of that. Understand that. But I'm gonna say it. I am not a fan of dogs. There. Said it. People, my friends know it, my family know it. I'm not a fan. I understand other people like them in their houses, their apartments, their homes, not in mine. If I go over to those houses, go over to those places where the dogs are present, I do not want to interact with them. I don't want them licking my face. I don't want them licking my hands. I don't want to scratch them. I don't want to get their hair all over me. Whatever smell they got, keep it away. Their dirty paws from walking in the yard, not for me. There, got off my chest. Confession, pretty huge dilemma. Is everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people, a lot more people getting dogs my age. Again, people getting married, kids, dogs. And I think, I don't know, if people aren't getting kids, they're getting dogs. No, I think there's a big overlap between them. But anyway, getting the dogs, if you like, again, if you like them, go ahead. I'm not anti-dogs. I'm not like, oh, all these dogs need to go away. They just need to go away from me. I don't like interacting with them. Running, had some not good experiences with them because whenever I run past a dog, never know if they're going to jump out and attack me. And for that, people can't say, oh, that's never going to happen. That's irrational. Wrong. It has happened. I've been, how many times have I been bit by a dog? I think twice. Yeah, twice. Once when I was a little kid, went to my friend's house. He had a dog, and I'm not sure why. Didn't think I was doing anything. Dog just bit my forearm. Not great. Parents didn't like that. Then the other time, when I was in college, running around, well, yeah, running for an exercise, training for a race, run past the dog, bit me in my calf. I didn't know what to do. I was in shock. I didn't get any information from the dog owner, which I probably should have. I just got bit and I was like, God, what is happening? And there was some blood running down my leg, but I just ran home and cleaned it up. But I definitely should have gotten the information of that owner. Just in case something happened where if something got infected from it, then would have that information. For dogs, people put their schedules around it. They say, "Oh, I can't go out. I have to go home, take care of this dog. I have to let it out." And if you're in an apartment, I don't know how you have a dog because you don't have a yard for the dog to run around in. And you're definitely not home often enough to take it out in the yard. Because if you have a house, man, this house first apartment thing is very critical topic that keeps coming up again and again. So once I move out of this apartment, I'm going to have no content to talk about. But if you're in a house, you can just let the dog out while you stay in, like clean up and do dishes. But when you're in an apartment, you can't just let your dog out and because there's no yard to go to. Like you have to be out there with them, so you can't get chores done during it. People put all their schedules around it, make it so important. And if the dog gets sick, if you have to spend $1,000 on this dog, again, because I haven't owned a dog, that sounds like too much to get a dog. There was an accountant that I worked with. He was an anti-dog. He had a dog, but he had a funny view because he was an accountant. I don't know how he determined this, but he would say it to his family and people he worked with. He said, "You know how much I would spend on a dog's treatment? I would spend up to the amount it would cost to get another dog." Because his thought was, if this dog's sick and has this sickness, well, I'm not going to spend more than the cost to just get another dog that's healthy and doesn't have this health issue. I don't know, something about trade-off costs, something like that. But it was pretty funny to hear him say that because everyone was like, but you have this relationship with your dog. You can't just get rid of it. And he's like, yeah, I can. If this dog's sick and it's not doing well, there's this other just as good dog not sick for it. Yeah, not a fan. I did have the idea once, low point in my life. I did have the idea of getting a dog when I was in Florida. Like, oh, I can get a dog in Florida. Like, it would be, I don't know, fun to have, fun to run around with. But for some reason, and I still think it'd be kind of cool to have, I want to have a Siberian Husky or a Dalmatian. But I learned Dalmatians are pretty dumb and not good around other people, so I said no to that. Then I thought I wanted a Siberian Husky, but living in Florida, I people can have them. I don't know how, but I guess you can have that in Florida. But that was a low point, and I'm glad I didn't fall into that trap of getting one. That might be the end of this podcast. I might be getting canceled now. I might have PETA come after me. Might have, I don't know. But I don't think I could make it more clear where I said I'm not anti-dog. I'm just, I just don't want a dog personally. You can have one, great. If it brings you joy. If you like getting licked on the face, if you like cleaning up um poop of another thing, go ahead. Me, no thank you. I don't need that. If all the benefits you get from a dog, I'll find that in something else. I'll find it in playing video games, which playing video games, talking about Peter Attia thing, I don't know if playing video games is giving me heart problems. It's, man, my cortisol level, stress, playing just shooting games where it's like fast reaction, fast twitch. Oh, I gotta shoot this enemy that just came up. Man, that gets my heart racing. And playing for hours on the weekend might not be the best option for that. But oh well, it happens. Okay, that was the dog thing. Ah, it's not anything new, but first time saying it on this podcast. We'll see if there's any backlash from that. Was there anything else I had on that? No, that's pretty much it. I'm not anti, just not for me. Don't really want to be around them. Yeah, okay. All right. Transition business ideas. Business money making ideas, ways to make money. Okay, so the first one I had, again, don't no research for this. This is a research-free area. I don't have a producer to pull things up to make me sound dumb or be wrong and distract me. So this is just on my own. Probably very easy to Google, but I haven't, not going to. So here we go. Okay, first idea. A way to easily convert a tennis court to a pickleball court. Pickleball, very hot in the streets. Not that difficult to play. Not that tiresome. But how can we convert tennis courts to pickleball courts and then go and then convert back to a tennis court? So there was one time where I went to play pickleball with a couple people, while pickleball courts were filled up. So we thought, okay, we'll go to these tennis courts. Then we drew the outline in chalk, not very straight lines, didn't know where all of them went. But I thought, is there an easier way to do this? Is there a way where you can just like get an outline and like white tape and just lay that down on the ground with all the correct measurements? I think the tennis and pickleball net heights are slightly different, but that's you could just and that might be part of the overall package of converting it is somehow like bands to like pull down the net and hold it down to a shorter height. Yeah, or okay, okay. I don't know how to describe this with words, but we'll work on it. Okay, something that goes from one side. So if the net's in the center, you have a rope that's like taped down on one side, goes over to the top, over the netting, and then goes down on the other side, and you can make that pull the net down to the height it's supposed to be. Okay, so you'll need a couple of those attachments. You'll probably need at least two for the ends. I don't think you can put one in the center because that's where the pickleball players are. But I think two at the ends might be sufficient for it. Okay, that's one part of it. And then you need some kind of, no, you wouldn't want rope. But I'm thinking like duct tape material where it's like the sticky part of duct tape together and you just like have that outline on the court and you just kind of lay it down. So that what but if you lay it down then if someone kicks it it could move around. That and I don't know what material would stick to the that might be also the difficult part of getting the net adjusted is I don't know what sticky material would stick to a tennis court besides like some sort of adhesive because it's not it wouldn't be you can't have Velcro on there. But anyway, that's for the other people to figure out. I'm just getting the idea going for it. So some way to convert that. Oh, geez. All right, last time. Oh man, that was bad. Some way to convert that because I think if it was just some way to lay down the outline, that wouldn't be as bad. And maybe you don't have a stick down. Maybe you just make it some sort of kind of weightier material so it doesn't like fly or flop around where people can step on it. But yeah, it might like slide out of the way. If someone stepped on it, slid, hurt their knee, that might be cause for concern. But I think that's okay. If you're, because trying with chalk, that was kind of annoying, not straight lines. And I would always like, the chalk would get too low and I would scrape my nail against the tennis court. That makes me shiver thinking of it now. Was there a different way? Maybe it would be like, I don't know, maybe it would be like a rope. You could make it out of ropes and just tie those together for it. That's one idea I had for a business idea. I think it would be A good idea to have that. I don't know, yeah, because there are a bunch of tennis courts, which who plays tennis anymore? That's too much. Just play pickleball. So much easier to do that than anything else. Okay, so that's one business idea. The other business idea I had, which I don't know, it would have a lot more to do for it, would take a lot more buy-in than just making that. Oh, that's my Shark Tank idea, which I don't, I never really watched that show. I didn't get it. Well, I mean, I get it. There's not too much to get, but I never found it that exciting. People just bring in products to a group of people who are just trying to like buy and take over everything. I didn't find that too interesting. There are a couple products where it's like, oh, as seen on Shark Tank. Like, I'm not that interested about that because people just rich entrepreneurs buying other things. Like this happens all the time. And I didn't find any people on the show particularly entertaining because they wouldn't have like conversations about things. You wouldn't learn too much about them. It would just be like short things they have between each other. So I find it that interesting to do and watch. So I really didn't. Okay. The other idea I had is how to create a system of trainers that people who travel constantly could use. I thought of specifically for comedians because they travel all the time and they live kind of an unhealthy lifestyle. But I thought, I don't really want to make it for the comedians because then they might get in shape and then they wouldn't be as funny. So then I switched it to just people who travel regularly for either their work, for fun, or whatever. So how could that be put together? You could have the online training. I think that wouldn't be, that's probably the reason for it. It's probably a terrible idea, terrible way to find a business idea. But there's just the initial thing of being a group. Yeah, man, this already happens. What am I even thinking? This already happens for it. Just getting a group of gyms, trainers, nutritionists together where it's like go and train. Yeah, well, virtual is not as in person, so you wouldn't have that as much. But I think and I might not be saying everything I'm thinking, but where you go in and if you travel from like the East Coast to the West Coast, you can go find a trainer there who you can work out with in person and just have them all connect to the same system. But I think that's what gyms do. But the only issue is like, no, I don't know if it's an issue because they have the trainers at one gym are trained the same as the trainers at the other gym. But people just need to find memberships for gyms where they have them in all sorts of places. Oh man, I'm not sure that could have gone any worse of an idea. That's not an idea at all. That's just, oh man, what kind of idea is that? Okay. Um, Now I need to scramble and find another topic. Editing, how can I make business of personal trainers? Yeah, that's not happening. Doctors, personal trainers. If talk about what I did for Valentine's Day, nothing. Valentine's Day, not a holiday, nothing. I forgot to get a card. Happens, but boring. Just went out and got frozen custard, which that's also, if you're talking about things that are important to this podcast, renting an apartment versus buying a home and ice cream. That's come up multiple times. Keep tweeting about it. So that's a big part of this. But yeah, I just got frozen custard and had that as a time. And then obviously the day after on Saturday, went and got the leftovers at the grocery stores where you can get like, oh, these hearts, oh, they're so nice. Well, it's past Valentine's Day, half off, easy. Why do that? Okay. All right. I'll tell that story. Yeah, get half off candy. It's guess what? It's just as good the day after, where they have the St. Patrick's Day candy. I didn't see any Easter candy. Easter is very late this year. Date just keeps changing, never consistent. Okay. Um, yeah, now nervous tics coming through, messing with the pen. Again, I don't even think it's nervous tick. I think it's just what people do. And candy day after. Other holidays get a day after. Thanksgiving, not really too much day after. 4th of July, not too much candy the day after. Halloween, that's a big one. Go day after for that. And it's just so much cheaper. Christmas, I don't really think there's too much the day after. Mm, yeah, but going the day after, just get like the half price candy. I like doing that more. Okay, so I'll tell the story that I had. So went to McDonald's where I talked about going to McDonald's at the airport again, which this is part of the podcast. I don't know if anyone gets to look at the analytics on YouTube. I don't know who gets to the end of these podcasts, or if anyone does the overall watch time for it. So this might just be another thing where nothing happens until years down the line. Someone listens to it, then tries to cancel me because I got some big podcast deal, record deal, TV deal. So still, that's pretty much what I'm preventing for. Okay, but the other experience I had at McDonald's. Before I talked about the airport, it's like, oh, it's so good. It's no issue there. Really hot food. Makes me want to go to McDonald's at the airport more. But then I went to McDonald's, not at the airport, just get nice coffee, which add that to the list of things. Becoming a coffee addict live on the podcast. Might figure out how to cold brew. No clue how to do that. I think you just soak coffee grounds in cold water overnight. Doesn't sound too difficult. We'll see. That's another topic that keeps coming up. Um, Went to McDonald's, just got a nice coffee, ordered it, went to the first window to pay for it, and I held the card out. And the person inside, which I don't remember going to McDonald's where they do this, where they then she swung out like the machine, the card reader to go in there, but it was still too far away. I couldn't reach it. It's like I didn't say anything, but I just held out the card because I couldn't reach it. It's like touching a thing. And I said, I can't reach it. Then she has the audacity. Oh man, I don't know what kind of power she felt working as a cashier at McDonald's. She said, "You're not even trying." What does this lady think is going on here? She thinks I don't want to pay. She thinks I'm trying to get away with not paying. I'm holding out this card. You have this card reader so far away from me, which I'm not going to drive right up next to the window and risk hitting it with my car because I know you can put your arm out and take this card. I'm not, I'm not putting it in park, undoing my seatbelt, opening the door to put the card in the card reader when I can just hand it to you. You're not even trying. That's put a damper on the rest of the day. I could not stop thinking about that. How much effort do you want me to put in to try and pay for an iced coffee? The fact that I went there to get one, it was just convenient and on the way. I was like, okay, it's not that big a deal. It's right there. It's not going to cost too much. It's not going to taste the best, which they all kind of taste the same. There's just like cold, somewhat taste of water, kind of like sparkling water, where those all don't taste the best. The only one, the Ollie, is it the Olipop? But like the lemon lime flavored one, that one tastes kind of like Sprite. I trying the root beer ones, like the orange ones, those don't really taste the best. But the coffees, they all kind of taste the same, especially when you get the iced ones. It's like water melts. It just tastes like kind of like water. We're going to be honest. Why is this lane say I'm not trying? What does trying look like? Want me to dive out the window to get this card into this card reader? Or can you extend your arm? I extend my arm. we meet like the picture of Adam and God with their fingertips touching, and you just take this card. I don't have to give a PIN number. I don't have to tell you my birthday. I don't have to give you any other information. You can just stick your arm out, take this card. When it's done, you hand me the card back. I take the card. Why do you need to swing out this card reader? The card reader doesn't go anywhere outside of it. So I need to find Mr. McDonald and tell him, hey, this card reader swinger thing, stop it. Just have the person reach out, take the card, swipe it, hand the card back. It's not that difficult to have. I don't know why you think you need to change up the system. I can't stop thinking about that. I every time I go, well, I don't even go to McDonald's that often, but I'm gonna make sure not, mm, because of that, maybe I won't even put the card reader in again. Every time I'll give it to the person and say, I can't reach the card reader. Here you go. And I don't think anyone else would respond like that. The What she thinks she was gaining from saying that? That wasn't gonna change my mind to put in more effort. It was just gonna, I don't know. Maybe she had a bad morning. Maybe I'll put it on that. Maybe her manager said something to her that she didn't like. But to say to me, to say to a paying customer, high paying customer of a nice coffee and go, you're not even trying. Man, that's got me very upset. Makes me not want to go to McDonald's, which I really don't think they care. But it was not an enjoyable experience. What did they say? No, it's not my pleasure. That's Chick-fil-A one. Was love it? I was not loving it that day when I had that experience with the cashier. Okay, well, that's ending that on a high note. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening to me talk about random things. Hopefully, I looked at the camera more. Hopefully, I wasn't messing with my pen as much. Maybe you learned something. Iowa Women's Wrestling, March 7th through 8th, Coralville, Extreme Arena. I don't know what the tickets are. They probably aren't that crazy, but hey, it'd be a cool event to go to. Steroids, they probably do have a downside. Haven't found it yet. All you do is become more manly. That's some downside to that. And yeah, all the other topics. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, comment, PH Dilemma Pod. Yeah, that's it. I think on the last episode I said it incorrectly. Which listening back, it was not. I mean, it's fine. I have it right here. PH Dilemma Pod, Instagram, X, YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, and yeah, we'll keep these recordings going. Maybe you'll learn something from them. If there's a topic you want me to discuss, if you have a better business idea than I had for those personal trainers, I was just sign up for a gym that's a chain gym. You can go multiple places, and that'll be it. That'll be your solution. Check, done. All right. Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.